Today I'm going to show you guys, it was labeled as a business presentation, but sorry to disappoint you. It's a bit technical, just a tiny bit. It's more about the journey, not the end product that I arrived to. So, who has an Android phone? Okay, plenty of guys. So, what's a honeypot? Who knows what a honeypot is? So a honeypot is just like this. It's a fly paper that attracts bad guys, and you basically try to trick them into flying just into your net, and you can catch them, catch their binaries on all of the payloads that they're sending to you. Why would I want to do that? Well, there's a lot of IoT devices, TVs, infotainment system, and such that are being attacked actively by the bad guys. So, as you can see, the amount of scans that have been going on port 5555, we'll get to that a bit later, has increased exponentially in the last month or so. And it looks like there are more and more devices that are being compromised by cyber criminals, and there are cyber criminals actively mining on your devices right now. And you can't really stop them because a lot of people don't actually know that they're actually being exposed. So let's get to the matter of hand. What's an Android debug bridge? Android debug bridge is a protocol that Google uses to help developers into debugging their own code. Initially, you had to insert the USB cable in your phone in order to get access to them, like full root access to your phone if you have it rooted. If not, we'll get into that later. But recently, they started exposing it over the internet, and some people, maybe from the factory or I don't know, kind of forgot to turn it off. So I just wanted to build a simple script that would allow a foreign attacker to connect to my device, to push binaries to it, and to do shell commands on it. Because if you just leave the port open, you won't be able to catch stuff like that. Many attackers rely on more complex scanning, and they don't just throw stuff at you. And I started digging around and found some documentation online that's obsolete. Why? I don't know, but I started looking into honeypot. The commands that were being sent, this is the same command. This is a command for sending binaries. There were 3 attempts to send the binary, and out of those attempts, every time it differed completely. So the packet structure was different, the reply that was expected was different, and there was no documentation, and I really don't know why. It's all a mystery to me. So, yeah. Again, I started hitting the books again, reading a lot of documentation. I found some guys that actually had some experience in reversing the protocol, but again, everything was obsolete. The protocol has changed a lot over the years. I just had to dig a lot more into finding some relevant information about it. So again, started hitting the books, started reading on the internet, gathering all of the open source data that I could find about it. This is the official Google documentation for ADB. Just a few files on GitHub. That's it. No more, no less. And it was quite a tough read to do. So I finally found some really, really smart guy that compiled everything and put it into a really nice digest. Again, it was outdated, at least for 2018 devices. But it was a starting point. I started building on it, and it didn't work. Again, why? Ask the guy at Google. It's just a big mystery to me. So I started crowdsourcing. I had a few contacts. I started asking around. I found this amazing guy who gave me permission to use his pre-built classes for building the basics for my protocol decoding. And I just started tinkering, just started fuzzing it, sending a lot of commands from my own personal computer to it, more gathering data. And for each reply, I would send, for each request I would get, I would analyze it, and based on the last two requests, I would send a specific reply to the server in order to basically build a pseudo-state machine, more or less. It's just a spaghetti code that's a big mess. But it works. It actually worked, and it actually allowed me to discover a lot of information about the protocol. Actually, the corporate firewall kept blocking me, so I had to do everything off the radar in my free time at home, yada, 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 yada. I don't know. That's another moment when corporate policy basically blocks you from doing the good work. In the end, I was able to build a service that would run online and to which you can connect. You can send shell commands to it. You can push binaries to it. And it basically emulates the ADB service that runs on your Android phone without a hitch. And I started getting a lot of cool stuff out of it. Known issues? Well, let's just say that I used trial and error to do it. I would just pull all of the pcaps from it, look at them one by one, and try to send a reply that made the ADB client that I was using go to the next level and communicate with my device. So to be honest, I really don't know if it works or not. It's just another case of complete mystery to me. But if right now you connect to my honeypot that's running, I don't know, in DigitalOcean, it's not the best place to place your honeypot, but it's whatever I had on hand at that point. You can push a file to me, and I'll be able to read it. And you can also shell into it and echo whatever command you'd like without any kind of issues. I tested it over and over again, and I found some really interesting payloads. Unfortunately, they came like this week or the week before, so I wasn't able to add them and present them and do a proper talk. But you know, that's why we have the Q&A section. So if you want to know more about how ADB malware works, just Google it up. You'll be able to find my blog post on it. And I'll be more than happy to share with you any more data that I was able to gather in my meantime, including a peer-to-peer miner that spreads around other people's devices, especially smart TVs. So they target some specific smart TVs, and once they infect them, they set up in the recovery partition, so you can't remove them with a wipe or anything like that. And after that, they will, again, scan the internet like Mirai did and push more of that bad stuff to other victims. So, questions?
As far as I know, by default, all Android devices have ADB shell blocked. So
Nope.
I'm pretty sure you have to turn on developer options and
Yes,
go to ADB debugging.
Yes.
Otherwise, you cannot get ADB commands on your Android phone.
Yeah, but the problem is that some devices have it enabled from the factory. Because I imagine that some people just wanted to quickly speed up their QA process, and they have a full wall of devices. They enable ADB through TCP/IP for it. They push their test APKs and test to see that everything is in order, and they forgot to turn off the device. That's why right now there are about 30 to 40,000 devices online on Shodan, if you do a quick lookup for them.
Oh, so I see those are special devices.
Yes, special
Thanks.
devices.
Hi, I'm here, left. The other left, in your right. So I have a question: how we can protect ourselves from this kind of threats? And if there are thousands of devices right now online with the shell access, if there is anyone trying to document this and trying to find them or to, I don't know, contact the vendor, dude, your phones are out of the factory with the ADB shell.
Well, I will try to do that once I get to the bottom of this. So I had some help from a friend who was way better than me at dynamic analysis, that was able to run the binary that I had in his sandbox. So it doesn't run on my physical test devices because it looks for a specific architecture, specific vendors, and so on. As soon as I get to the bottom of it, I'll be forwarding it to the vendors and try to find a fix.
So two-part question. First, is the code of your honeypot available for forking and pull requests?
Yes, because I believe that sharing is curing, I want to release it as soon as possible. Right now I'm in talks with some other guys so we can have a better code base for it and just release a finished product. But just give me a poke on Twitter and I'll send you the honeypot.
So I will definitely do that. Second, and I may be speaking out of my ass here, wouldn't it have been easier to spawn an emulator and hook up and debug the ADB process?
Yeah, it would have, but you have like really high revert time, and there are a lot of there are competing botnets that delete each other. So you don't know which is which and what came from what attacker.
But I'm thinking that maybe you could create a state machine with the Android emulator.
Oh, yeah, definitely. But I found it a lot easier to write my own
ADB handler.
Yeah, from the ground up, like really low interaction, so I can make sure that none of them actually lock up my system.
Cool. We may want to contribute to that, by the way.
Nice.
Here on the right. You said you had a lot of problems finding documentation for ADB framework.
Yes.
Have you tried to go to the source? Have you asked Google? Because they pretend to be an open company. And
yeah, they have. They removed "Don't Be Evil," by the way. It moved it to other point of their of their disclaimer thingy. But officially, that documentation is already there, but it's still incomplete. So I doubt that they're gonna do more than just reference me to that point. The whole protocol, from my humble opinion, is quite a mess because it was initially designed for communicating with your phone via USB, not TCP/IP. The TCP/IP is just, I guess, a hack that was done in order to facilitate developers.
yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, guys. That was it. Thank you, Gabriel. That was interesting.